It's cold out and I want pastries. Hey everyone, welcome back to Olivia's Corner. I'm going to go over some components of the world that I've created, some of my characters that I play, how to build a character, what it means to be a dice goblin, and some of the tools that I have used for playing virtually that I find helpful. So first of all, Dungeons & Dragons is a way to put yourself in a fantasy world of someone else's creation, or to put your friends in a world that you've created. In my case, I get to do both. I play in several different worlds from several different friends who create wonderful stories in magical realms of dragons and caves and goblins and problems and magic and friendship and love. But I also get to create that for some of my friends. I worked on my world for something like 6 months before anyone wanted to play in it, and I am really proud of the world that I've created, as well as the worlds that my friends have created. So, how do you build a character if you're interested in launching into D&D? Well, whether you've got a group of people you want to play with already or not, you can begin with choosing a character. What's something you've always wanted to explore about the world, or always wished you had the confidence to play, or wished that you had the physical skill to portray? When I was little, I played this game where I was a fire princess, and I got to basically do firebending. I'm pretty sure that was from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was the influence for that. I wanted to be this super cool girl who could cast fire everywhere, and I was, as a kid. It was fun. What's your story like that? What do you want to be? Who did you pretend that you could be as a kid? Who do you wish you could be now? The good news is you can make yourself that person, even temporarily. You can consult the player's handbook for all of the race and class options. That seems pretty fun to me. You can throw things, you can hit things, there's so many options, and it's not all combat. You can use a character who is super sly and can persuade people or deceive people or sneaks around really well like the rogues do. Hopefully once you've chosen your race and class, you're starting to get a feel for what kind of character you want to choose. It's also always a good idea to have at least one backup character, another kind of character that you would love to play in case your character gets killed off, which is an unfortunate, likely eventuality in some games. That's both a pro and a con when making your character. When you get so attached to the outcomes and the story that your character is living through, it can be really hard when your character is killed in combat and nobody can bring them back, especially if there's not a cleric in your group. I recommend working with the help of your dungeon master to work on your backstory and how where you come from and what your goals are fit into the world that they are spinning. The best stories are built around the backstories of the characters. At least I think so. And this is Olivia's Corner, so what I say goes here. When you're playing Dungeons & Dragons in the world of COVID, there are resources so that you can play online with your friends. My group particularly plays with Roll20, which is an online platform. It lets you stream with video and audio, and you can set your own picture for your character. It lets you roll dice virtually, which is pretty cool. There are options to make the dice roll across the table, and it has an audio sort of sound like you're rolling the dice. And then they show up on the table and you get to watch them roll. So it's a fun alternative to the bummer of not getting to roll dice in person. Another one I highly recommend is D&D Beyond. They will help you build character sheets. If it feels too confusing to go thumb through a player's handbook, or you just want the easiest way to build your character, I recommend building your character on D&D Beyond. There will be prompts where you can read each of the little inclusions for your race and class before you choose it and after you choose it, and it helps you manage your hit points, your equipment, your spells, your gold, all of the things. Dice. Some people are what we would consider dice goblins. Those are people who believe that you can never have too many dice to play Dungeons and Dragons with. I personally have different dice bags for each of the characters that I play, and one for DMing. There are also people who are not dice goblins who believe that one set or two at most is perfectly fine and acceptable, and that's fine. That's an opinion you can have. I'm not judging at all. Yeah, no, you're fine. I'm gonna get my dice. These are my dice for Asteria. The only dice that I keep in this pouch are ones that fit the aesthetic or sort of class of that character. So for Asteria, I have 3 sets of dice in this bag plus 1 extra d20, and one of them is this sort of silvery gray and white. One of them is basically the same except a little bit more white with the gold lettering. My character is a blonde woman with just sort of metal armor, so these work really well for her. And then the other really fun set is this guy. These are my metal dice set from the Critical Role set. Then I got this little guy, sort of navy with copper. For Ellery, I have this bag, and these are the colors of my Sea Elf Cleric. There's these sort of greens and blue tones. And while I already had some dice that I had ordered especially for this character because I fall more into the dice goblin category, they also gave me a set of dice. So they gave me these sort of swirled marbly ones that are super pretty and the perfect color for my character Ellery. This is the D12 of one of the sets that I found that has little skulls and little bits of moss inside of it. I felt that it looked kind of like seaweed, which is perfect for a sea elf. Another set is this sort of green mossy color because she's a little bit more naturey. I decided that all of her updos for fancy outfits are with seaweed twisted into her hair. This one's really cool because it has a seashell inside of the dice. I didn't love the sort of purpley color that I chose. I thought it was a little bit more blue, but that's okay. And there are little bits of glittery stars inside and literally seashells inside of these dice that are for my Sea Elf Cleric. Look at my dice goblin horde. For Crimson, my bard character, all of these dice are more purples and blues and reds and blacks, and I felt that they were more magical colors, but also my character wears a sort of silver and blue cloak with a purpley blue shirt, and she has red hair. She's kind of a darker character as far as what I play. So I've got this sort of red and gold color with some black swirled in. These ones are really pretty. They're like a royal blue purple color. These ones were a gift from a friend, and they're a little bit darker than you can see on camera there. That's a little bit better. They sort of have a midnight feel, and this character has a very mysterious and midnight vibe. I love them. And I have this monster, which I sewed up myself by hand. As of right now, this is my DMing pouch, but it's also just my favorite because it has all the cool dice in it. This one has the most colors. It has lots of pinks and reds. I have one set that's like raspberries and cream sort of color scheme going on. I have a bubblegum pink one. I have coral. I have a see-through sort of clear set that have this red lettering and wispy sort of white on the inside. There's the raspberries and cream one. Look at it. They're so pretty. This guy is gorgeous. Ooh, that's pretty good. Those are my dice. I'm a little bit obsessed. I can never have too many. So these are for guests. I have these old candle jars that just have dice in them. So someone comes over and they're like, ah, shit, I forgot my dice. I've got you covered. So these ones have kind of a coppery, orangish color and then green. They're almost Christmassy. They're kind of druidy. They could be a strange cleric scheme. You never know. In my world, the primary continent that my players have played on is called Velsar, named after a founder from 800 years ago that cleansed the land of a great evil. The continent is broken up into 4 parts: the 3 kingdoms and the wastelands of the Thalican War. The 3 kingdoms are the Kingdom of Queen Anthenar, just called the Kingdom of Anthenar. It's sort of a medium as far as law enforcement. There's the Kingdom of King Bellinor, which is the ancient king from 600 years ago who ruled the throne. Right now it's King Dala that sits on the throne, and it is ruled with an iron fist. And then there's the Kingdom of King Cantwell. King Cantwell's family are fat and happy in a castle somewhere and have no say in what happens in their kingdom anymore. My player started in the city of Zor, which is the northwest corner of the Three Kingdoms, right at the border of the Thalakan Wasteland, and has docks. It is a coastal city as well. The city of Zor has a magic school. It's run by a council of people, and it has a smattering of different shops. There's a great potion store that my players have not been to yet, and a furniture store called Flavian's Fine Furnishings that I am very proud of. It's lots of purple colors. Definitely inspired by a certain NPC in Critical Role. My players started in the city of Zor, where there was a murder mystery, because who doesn't love the beginnings of a murder mystery? It's a fun story. I feel like a murder mystery is a great way to get people together. Aside from the world that I created, I've also played in a couple of games. I have a character named Asteria, who is a human fighter. I have a character named Crimson, who is a human bard. And my favorite is a character named Ellery, who is a sea elf cleric. Playing a fighter is hard for me. Asteria is an interesting character. She used to fight in a fighting pit, and she doesn't get to do that anymore, which is kind of a bummer. We kind of teleport between planes a lot in that campaign. So I'd like to get into some fist fights. It sounds like fun. Some very strategic fist fights. That character has a good old-fashioned revenge plot going on. When I play Crimson, I struggle to play a bard. She is interesting enough, and she has wonderful spells, and I like the whimsical and sort of flying by the seat of her pants nature of this character. And also she's a hoarder, so she has some really interesting items in her bag of holding. I don't like to sing in front of people. I know there are other ways to play a bard, you don't have to just sing, but I feel like I have to when I do inspiration and stuff, so bardic inspiration doesn't happen very often in that campaign. That character was running from something, and we got teleported into the world of Eberron, so her world is not in play anymore, and she's got nothing to run from, so she's kind of free for the first time. And maybe we're kind of seeing that in the campaign, that she's being more frivolous with her spells and being a little freer with her information, and I don't know, it's interesting seeing a shift in this character. And then there's Ellery. Oh, I feel weird talking about her in such loving terms because it's me, but it's like, I love this girl so much. Her full name is Ellery Basil Ferber. Ellery is a sea elf cleric. I know I said that already, but she can breathe underwater, she can swim as fast as she can walk. And the first combat that she got into, I used Toll the Dead, which is a spell that uses necrotic or like necromancy energy. It's usually kind of black in theme and dark. She used it on a goblin and got the killing blow, and it turned the goblin to a black sludge, and my group dubbed it Necrotic Oatmeal. It stuck, and that was kind of our group name for a while, and it's still our Facebook group chat name, Necrotic Oatmeal. Ellery loves coffee and mornings and breakfast and water, and she follows this god called the Wanderer who watches over the journey between life and death. Playing this character has been really good for me in terms of testing what I'm comfortable with, and one of my best friends is my dungeon master, and so we text all the time about this character and about like, oh my gosh, did you see this thing this person posted? That's such an Ellery thing, and like, I could see her doing that someday, or like, oh my gosh, I'm a little uncomfortable with the direction we're going with her hopes and dreams. I'm not sure if she would be okay with this, or I wonder what the Wanderer would think about this choice that she's making. The other benefit of one of my best friends being the dungeon master is I can say, this thing in my life feels like it's being played out in this character, and it freaks me out. What do we do? And we talk about it. One of the huge growth patterns or arcs that I want to see for her is she was not looking forward to leaving her home, and putting down roots is comfortable, and the Wanderer has challenged her over and over and over again to not put down roots, to keep exploring and to keep wandering. And I'm not sure if she knows that doesn't always have to mean don't have a home. It just means maybe your home is people, and I'm not sure she's found that yet. I mean, I think she's found people who could be her home. I'm just not sure she's aware that that's what's happening. She also has this crush on this NPC. There's this really strange character with definitely Luna Lovegood vibes, and her name is Donabella, and Ellery is just so taken with her, and it freaks me out. It's fun to play flirty. I am more of a slow burn person, and by that I mean I like the slow progression of friends to maybe there's something here to talking about it maybe, or just, you know, you want to be around the person that you like. I could talk all day about Ellery, or I could dress up as her and answer questions in character for her. So what questions do you have for me? What questions do you have for my characters? What do you want to know about D&D? What do you like about what I'm saying? What do you hate about what I'm saying? Go ahead and drop your comments below and your questions. Thanks again for showing up. Let me know what you think of this D&D Talks idea. And if D&D Talks is not your cup of tea, it's once a month. You can watch the other 3 weeks. That's a perfectly okay option. This has been D&D Talks. Tune in next week to hear the introduction of my blog of short stories, and I'll read you one that's kind of spooky since it's Halloween season. I hope you liked the insight into the worlds that I love and the characters that I enjoy playing. And if not, that's perfectly okay. I've got other content coming out. Thanks for coming. I'll see you next week. Almost level 16. Wow, no. This has been D&D Talks. Tune in next... Am I allowed to say fuck off on screen? I guess it's my show, huh? Pretty sure these are for Crimson? Dice.